So he basically says that we all have a financial thermostat, which is like, I don't know, we have the ability to maintain $10,000 in our bank account, right? Or maybe that'd be $2,000 or whatever the case is, right? You can open up all the doors, right, and make like a huge 6-figure check, right? But if you don't have your financial thermostat set to a certain amount, if it hasn't changed, right? Even though when you close all the doors, when the money stops coming in, you will still return right back down to that $2,000 or that $10,000 or whatever that money is, irrespective of how much money is coming in. So the whole goal, once you make enough money, you realize this, and the whole goal is not necessarily to make as much money as you can, but to start working on that financial thermostat.
Hi, my name is Gavin. You are here on another episode of Sometime-ish. This is a podcast where sometimes we talk about life, sometimes we talk about business, sometimes we talk about current events, but all the time you will be entertained, informed, and will want to tune in for another episode. I am here with Fade. I couldn't get the last name.
You got it, bro. You're so close, bro. It's all about the confidence.
Amola, you got it.
Aromolaran.
Aromolaran. Okay, there it is. There it is. That was a tough one. So for the people who don't know, who is Fade?
I am a guy that found out about an opportunity in real estate, and I've seen some success in it. At this point, I want to use that success to make a change in the way, I guess, communities are built. But at the same time, I want to stay true to who I am and my passions. So I'm also trying to move away and get that delegated. But ultimately, just an entrepreneur and a real estate investor.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, these could be on right now. These could might not. I don't know.
Selchuk, are we recording?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, for real? That works. That works.
Yeah.
So we literally just did it.
Precisely.
Are
but then,
you Joe Rogan?
Dude, maybe one day. Maybe one day, man. Give me like a couple years.
Yeah, bro.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
This is like, a thing I'm kind of passionate about, I don't
That's
know.
dope.
Do you have anything else like that where you just like, you have your real estate and then?
I actually want to get out of real estate.
Really?
And not get out of it, like, I'd still have equity in it, and I'd still have a fully running company and stuff like that. But like, I was just talking to him about like delegation. I want to delegate out the whole thing,
Okay.
because I'm tired of just like doing like the minutia and like all the day-to-day stuff of it, because it can get really tedious.
Right.
And I want to move out of that, and I want to practice like more things that I'm passionate about real estate, but not necessarily about the real estate aspect of it necessarily, but what it can do for me and the freedom it can provide and stuff like that, and what it can do for my family even more so. So, but my personal passions are like in like performative arts and like I'm like I dance and like I sing and like I want to get into like acting and stuff like that. So those are the stuff that I really, really like want to explore and get better at, to the point where I can actually start performing and stuff like that. But the real estate is almost like in the way, almost like you make money and everything, but like it's a constant grind.
Right.
Like wholesaling, you make a lot of money on one transaction. Once that transaction is over, you're back to square one.
Yeah.
And you got to start looking for the next deal. You
100%.
kill that one, back to square one. And it's like constantly grinding. So I want to delegate all that out and move on to something bigger and better for me personally.
And I noticed that you have like a good presence. Like you can kind of tell like the way you interact. Like I could definitely see you being an actor,
you
bro.
You too, bro. You're in the right seat.
Right. I mean, you're in. You never know. You catch a vibe. But what did you always want to be when you were young?
When I was younger,
like acting and all that. Was that part of it, or?
That's a tough question. It's a tough question because I'm not sure if you've heard of like the stereotype that comes with being Nigerian.
Oh yeah, like doctor, lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Engineer, yeah.
And it's so deep where it's like a lot of us, and I've had conversations about this with my siblings and like friends of mine that are also Nigerian. Like it's kind of hard to draw the line between like what we wanted and what was kind of like pushed in our direction, like what directions we were naturally pushed in as kids. Because obviously when you're a kid, you're like impressionable and stuff like that. So whatever your parents place value on is like what you place value on. So I don't really know. Like I remember from when I was younger, I'd always wanted to be an engineer, but who knows? Like it might be because my parents were like pushing me in that direction. That's like how often do you have a kid that wants to be an engineer?
Right.
Like 100%. That even knows what engineering is.
Right. Most of the time kids just want to play.
Yeah.
Right? But then you hear like, because my mom used to always tell me, oh, you'd be a great lawyer. And then eventually it just like sticks in your subconscious mind. And then I'm like, well, maybe I do want to be a lawyer.
Were you an attorney?
No, I never was an attorney. Okay. But I always like wanted to be an attorney growing up because I think I just heard it so much.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that.
Yeah.
What do your parents do?
My mom, she has a caregiving company. Okay. So she helps like elderly and people that can't necessarily care for themselves. She assigns them caregivers, and she coordinates that whole process. And then my dad was actually a real estate agent for like 20 years. And now he's kind of like tried to start up like multiple companies and stuff like that. And now he's like trying to retire in Nigeria. So we have like on the road, they sell like these like sachet waters where basically it's like a plastic bag, like a small plastic bag, but it has water in it instead of like a traditional water bottle. Super cheap, and they're purified and everything, and it's to code. But he's starting up a company that makes those. Okay. And the cash flow, the numbers on that are crazy. I
can imagine, yeah.
Crazy. So he's doing that right now, but before he was doing like real estate.
Okay. Yeah. So you had that probably growing up, those big pushes from them to get like a more, because they're both business people, right? But I guess they wanted you to be more like structured, or? Exactly.
And like all my siblings, they're like all doing that. They're all my younger brother is applying for med school. My older brother's a doctor. Like my older sister's a doctor. My other sister is like an attorney, or at least she was in line to do that. I don't think she's doing it anymore. Another older sister, a doctor. Like literally like a whole set of just like a freaking powerhouse. But like, it's like, what are the odds of that happening naturally? Right. Like it's obvious that there was some influence. Right. It's like how many dreams were suppressed in that process. Right. And like I think I suffer from the middle child syndrome a lot, where it's like I just was never really stuck in one place, where like at some point in time I could be the older brother, while like another point in time I could be the younger. Right. And like having to play those two roles, and then also starting school here and then going to Nigeria, kind of like your experience with Jamaica, you realize that there's more than one way of living life. Right. And you can live a completely different life that's completely separate from what your parents tell you there is, or what you might have lived in another context. So with that, it kind of translated into career, right? Where I was like, I might not have to do the doctor way or the engineering way. I might not want to do that at all. I might want to start up my own thing. Or like, and I'd always been to like stocks and stuff, and like flipping shoes and all that stuff. And my parents didn't teach me that. I just like kind of
picked it up,
saw the opportunity, and like went for it. And it even got as bad as like me flipping. It's not my proudest, but like I used to flip. Those graphing calculators.
Yeah, like the big ones.
Yeah, bro. There's like a market where like there are a lot of people that have graduated from college. They have these joints and they put them in storage.
That's actually
they no longer want them.
Yeah,
and like they'd sell them for like $10. But then college students, like they go retail for like 120. Right, and college students would buy it. It's always like buy it low and then sell it low too. So I would sell them for like $90 and like make that profit.
That's a crazy markup, though.
Bro.
Yeah. That's actually probably like does anyone do that? Like has anyone scaled that? Like reselling calculators?
Honestly, I don't know. Okay. They should though. I never scaled it. I maybe did like a couple of them, like trying to find it, because it's a lot of like scouring through Craigslist and stuff like that. But it's just crazy, like when you have an eye for opportunity and like you're like always looking forward to like kind of put puzzle pieces together. I think it's a muscle, right? Like that you can train and like get better and better at. But
for sure.
When I noticed that, I was like, bro, like, where does this end? Does it end at calculators? Does it end at phones? Does it end? That I found wholesaling. And I was like, you can do the same exact thing, but like way bigger margins because you're dealing with houses.
Right. When did you first discover that you could wholesale? Like, how old are you now, by the way?
I'm 24.
You're 24. Okay.
24.
So how long have you been doing it for?
3 years.
3 years. Okay.
So I graduated 2018 and I was 21. And summer before graduation, right before graduation, I found out, I graduated December 2018. So the summer before, I went to this Damon John conference. He came to Bethesda. And it was basically teaching you how to grow your business or start your business, or I can't even remember what the headline was. Kind of like clickbait or whatever, but he was talking about that. And so I didn't have a business, or at least a legitimate business. I was just like flipping stuff. But I was like, I mean, you never know what you can learn. And it was like only $50, and it was in Maryland. And I recognized this guy from Shark Tank. So so I pulled up, and it wasn't him, but one of his opening speakers was talking about they were talking about a couple of different things, but one of them was talking about real estate and different ways of getting into real estate. And we were talking about flipping and buying and holding and stuff like that, and like the pros and cons. But then wholesaling came up, right? And this is 2018. Wholesaling is like picking up traction and stuff like that. So they were talking about this no cash down, no credit type of option of getting into wholesale getting into real estate. And I was like, this is not. There's no way that this is possible, right? But it's funny. I used to say the same thing about like math equations, like in engineering. That like I would see this huge math equation. I'm like, there's no way that this joint is possible. But I still graduated, right? I still have to figure out the equation eventually, whether it be for individual tests or looking at like an entire class and be like, oh my God, this class is a lot. Basically what you do is that you break it down into individual pieces. If the individual pieces make sense, then the full picture, by like the logic it follows, it have to make sense as well. So I was like, I mean, it doesn't make sense, bigger picture, how you can get into real estate without credit or down payment or anything like that, or any money. But I'm here to listen to how like the process works. They broke it down. It made sense. And I was like, bro, like if this is possible, again, like what's the upper limit to doing this? Like you can really do as many as you can find. And because you're not using your own money, you're basically signing paperwork. And like, I don't know if you want to break it down for the followers, what it even is.
For sure. Break it down. What is wholesale? What is an assignment?
Yeah. So it's funny you said assignment. So wholesaling is basically getting a property from somebody that is maybe in a distressed situation, and they don't necessarily I don't know whether to look at the camera or you.
No, whichever one.
Okay.
A couple cameras.
Okay. Yeah. But basically finding a property from somebody that's in distress or needs to sell. We've all been in a situation, or maybe we know somebody in a situation where maybe they have like jewelry or like shoes or some item of value, and maybe they just need money quickly. And they don't necessarily care about getting the top dollar on a house or whatever item that might be. They're willing to take it at a discount if they can get the money quickly, right? The same thing applies with houses, right? And people can't wrap their minds around that. But yeah, it's basically finding people in distress that would prefer to have money quickly, getting good at marketing for them, getting them under a purchase and sale contract, standing as a buyer. So you approach them saying, hey, I'm a buyer. I want to buy this property for this amount, and negotiating and all that comes with it, getting them under paperwork saying that they'd agree. And what that paperwork does is essentially it gives you interest in that property. So that person can't go and sell that property to somebody else because their signature is on paper. So they're legally bound to you within the extent of whatever the terms of were on that agreement. And you taking that interest, you can move forward with that contract, or you can actually sell that interest to somebody else, right? And that's the essence of wholesaling, where you find a property first or for a price, and you find somebody else, preferably an investor, that would be willing to buy that property for a little bit or a lot more than you than you got it for from that seller.
Okay. And how are you actually getting paid?
So it's a check at closing. So you agree at one price. Let's say you agree at a price of $50,000 from a seller. They would be willing to sell their property for $50,000. And then you find a buyer that would be willing to buy it for $60,000. Right? You basically take paperwork that you signed with the seller. You sign a completely different document saying that you agree to sell, and that person agrees to buy your interest in that first contract. And you now have two pieces of paper. You give that to the title company. Those are companies that traditionally close and coordinate the whole closing process on a property. And closing is basically just transferring ownership from one person to another. They coordinate all that. You give both of those two documents to the title company. The title company basically sets the closing date. They call everybody in. That person that you agreed to pay $60,000 pays that $60,000 for that property. $50,000 of that goes to the seller that had agreed at $50,000 per their agreement, the first contract, and then the remaining, the $10,000, goes to you.
Okay.
And it works a little bit different from a commission. Not a little bit; it's a lot different from a commission, where the commission is going to be based on the price that it sells for, and you would get a percentage. And by commission, I mean a real estate agent. In this case, it's very different from being an agent. You essentially don't get paid off of a percentage, a 3% or 6% or however much, but you get paid on a difference. So that difference could be $500, or that difference could be $500,000. So like I've done deals anywhere from like 1,000 to I've made like 6 figures on a deal, right? On like a single deal, just because that difference was so wide. And yeah, I saw the opportunity from day one from that conference that I went to, and I was like, bro, this is different. Like this is like life-changing money and a life-changing opportunity. And I was like, I mean, best case scenario, if I go into engineering, I'm in bioengineering, and like, let's say I work can we cuss?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Okay. Let's say I work my ass off for like, I don't know, 40 years, right? I'm never gonna like make more than 200 grand. Like, and that's best case scenario. It's best case scenario. Like, very few engineers end up making that. Like, I was really looking at maybe after a good couple of decades, I'd probably cap at 150, right? And I was looking at this, and I was like, bro, like, if you can really get good at this and take matters into your own hands, as opposed to having an employer tell you what the value of your time is, basically giving you an hourly wage or salary or whatever, you could really determine how much your time is worth based on how good you get at finding these opportunities, right? And again, because you're not putting any money into it yourself, you're just signing paperwork. You can literally do as many as you can find.
Right.
So then I saw this Max Maxwell guy. He was doing like 10, 20 of these a month. Imagine doing 10, 20, 10 grand transaction a month. That's like 200 grand a month.
Right.
And I was like, bro, I wouldn't even see this after 40 years of doing engineering. This guy's making it in a single month. And so all that kind of clicked for me up front. And I told my parents that, hey, I'm not applying for any jobs. I'm just going to move back in, and I'm going to go hard with this. And it took me about 10 months, but I got my first deal, and it's kind of been rolling since.
For sure. What was that first deal like, and where'd you find it? What kind of seller was it? And how much did you make?
It was a very interesting transaction because it took forever. Well, not forever, but it felt like it was forever. It wasn't the first contract I had gotten, but it was the first one that actually went through. So I did, at that point, I was trying everything. Because like after 10 months of not working, it's like I was broke and I couldn't keep up with my friends anymore.
Okay.
Maxed out all my credit cards. Okay, yeah, bro. It was like I was like in a dire situation, bro. It was terrible. And so I was really just trying everything. And the cheapest things too.
Like bandit signs, cold calling.
So yeah, I was doing all that. Okay. But this particular deal came from RVMs. So are you familiar with
For
RVMs?
sure. What were you dropping that through?
What is it called? Call loop.
Okay.
Call loop. Yeah. And essentially what an RVM is for the people is a ringless voicemail where and Max Maxwell actually broke it down. I didn't realize the science behind it, but basically it sends 3 different calls to a single line, and the 2 calls cancel each other out, and then the third one rings on the person's phone, but only rings once. So, and then after that ring, it drops a voicemail. So on said person's phone that you're sending this campaign to, they get a notification on their phone saying that, oh, somebody called. It's a random number. They look at their phone, they try to pick it up, it completely cancels out, and then they see a voicemail pop up. So naturally, you'll listen to that voicemail. It's easier to listen to a voicemail than to talk to somebody. So it's actually preferable for them to do that. And they get something like, hey, this is Fade, and it's a little bit out of the blue, but I was walking my dog in your area, and I saw a property I believe you own. I wanted to reach out. I talked to a lady that was walking down the road too, and she said that she was interested, that you might be interested in selling this. I just thought I'd reach out. I'm not even sure if I got the right number, but if it is and you are interested in selling, feel free to reach back out. That we love buying properties in this area, and we'd love to talk to you about it. Right? And
pretty solid script. By the way.
I appreciate it.
Pretty unique for sure. Yeah. Sounds like an actual voicemail of somebody who's calling you specifically for your house.
Yeah. And that's the goal. But you also want to make it as ambiguous as possible, so you don't mention the name, you don't mention the address, you don't mention the area. Just all very vague terms. And you saw a lady. Like every neighborhood has a lady. So you send that out to thousands of people.
How many did you need to send it out to before that first? Like, were you getting a ton of callbacks, a ton of leads, or was it just like one lead, one deal?
I honestly can't remember, bro. Like, and I was not tracking my KPIs back then. It's
hard when you first start.
Yeah,
it's just so many numbers, and you're just trying to figure out how to get a deal.
Yeah, you just want a deal. You just want to talk to somebody and get somebody to talk to you. Somebody that actually wants to sell. So I sent it out like 5 o'clock. I got a call immediately from this guy that basically said, yeah, I mean, I want to sell. Can you come now?
Okay.
Right. And
it's a good seller.
Yeah, exactly.
He's ready to go.
Exactly, bro. You don't even know. My nerves are going crazy. I was like, dang, this might be it. So I get there at like 7 or so.
It's 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
Okay. So
7 p.m. So I send it out at 5 p.m. I get it at 7 p.m. I get the contract at 9.
Okay.
So like it was like clockwork like that. Boom, boom, boom.
For sure.
I ran the numbers terribly wrong. It was terrible. The ARV was like 250. I think that's what the investor ended up selling it for. That's what my numbers were saying. Or maybe like 240 or 250. And the house looked fine. I didn't think the repairs were that bad. But so I contracted it at 135.
Okay.
Like now going back and like now knowing the area way better, it's terrible for me to even make that commitment to the seller. But I did it. Contracted at 135 and thought I could make like a decent amount, like 15 grand. I thought I was going to sell it for 150. So they had like a 100 grand range or so. It was silence, just crickets. I posted it everywhere that I knew how to.
You were all on Facebook, Craigslist. Where were you posting this deal?
I can't even remember back then. Like I think I met some people at meetups, how you said that you had seen me. Yeah. So I think it was like at like business cards that I collected from people and stuff. So I sent it out to them. But again, crickets, right? And I didn't know to send it to agents or send it to Facebook or Craigslist or whatever that I know now. But at the time, I did what I could. Crickets, and I had to go back to the seller and basically say, hey, like I'm not going to be able to get this done. And he had a mortgage balance of 120 on it. And he thought he was going to make 15 grand from it. I went back to him and said, hey, I can't do this price. But what I can do is I can help you find somebody that can buy it instead. And so for my first deal, he knew I was wholesaling it, right? He knew that I wasn't going to be the end buyer. I started looking for people for him, brought multiple people to the house, said, give me an offer, give me an offer, give me an offer. Ended up getting somebody, the highest I got from somebody was 99. Okay. So imagine setting an expectation from somebody at 135, and then like the highest he got was 99. And I eventually said that, hey, I've done all this work to the buyer that, hey, can you pay me at least a little bit something? And he was like, yeah, I can do maybe like 102. right? So I get to sell it for $199 or for $99. I sell it for $102, make that $3,000. Again, this guy has a balance of 120, and he's now not making 15 grand. He's coming to the table with 21.
Right.
But I find out that the reason why he even reached out to me so quickly, that's why like the motivation bit and like the distress is so important. He had a conversation with his realtor prior to me reaching out. The realtor said that, hey, you're not going to be able to make any money on this. Like you're going to have to come to the table with something, and I can list it, and you're going to have to pay me, right? And pay for closing costs and all that stuff. And I can probably sell for around $100,000. But even at that, you probably end up walking away with 90. And that's the conversation he had with his realtor. So in the back of his mind, he thought that he was going to come to the table with 30 grand. Right. So he wanted to get the house gone.
I can imagine. That's why he called you back so quick. He probably.
Yeah, he was done.
Right.
He was done. And so I was actually, even though like it was so different from the expectations that we had up front, I was still his saving grace.
Right.
And still helped him out. And it's hard for people to imagine somebody in this space where they feel happy bringing 20 grand to the table to close out a property. But it's like his alternative is terrible, even worse. Right. And he wanted gone from this property. So that was my first deal. I got it done for like $3,000.
How did that feel? Like after 10 months of not getting anything done, right?
Bro, it made it all more real. But it was still stressful because $3,000 is not life changing, especially not making anything for 10 months. Right. Like $3,000 is like, it was literally just a proof of concept that, okay, I can close a deal.
Right.
And like, not only that, but I've met every single person along the way that it takes to close a deal. I got it done, met the title company, and got everybody paid on that front. And the investor ended up flipping it and made money and stuff. But it wasn't like, I didn't get that elated feeling that people talk about because like it was still my credit card bill. It wasn't even close to anything like that could like touch my credit card bills. And but at the very least, it helped me pay for marketing for the next deal.
Right.
And then a month later, I got a 10 grand check.
Okay.
On another deal.
Off of RVM again, or off?
No, this one was a JV. Okay. So that one was with the guy that I had mentioned.
Okay.
I showed him pictures. He just got married and stuff.
Okay, good for him.
In Turkey. He's from Turkey. But yeah, that's how it came up.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was a JV with me and Alula. He made 16. I made 10. It was a deal actually here in DC in Northeast in Deanwood. And good deal. And that one made me feel a little bit better.
For sure.
Especially since 10 grand is like the average in this industry. So 3 grand was kind of like a slap in the face, but 10 grand was like, okay, I'm here. And
how did, when you say JV, like he reached out to you and wanted you to find him a buyer, or how did that work?
So it was in the space where he wants to be hands off, and he wanted to be hands off from the very beginning. So he was like, hey, I will split deals with you if you do acquisitions for me. I just bring in the leads, and then we both find a buyer together. So and he knew that I'd been in the business, I'd been grinding for 10 months, even though I'd only done one deal. He knew that I was dedicated. And now that when I work with people, that's kind of like what I look for, not necessarily their track record, but integrity, and then see if they're dedicated and willing to put the work in.
For sure.
And he saw that, I think, at least hopefully, that's why he chose me. But like he saw that and he was willing to put his leads in my hands. So ended up getting the contract on it and making some money on it.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. And how is that relationship? Do you guys still like JV everything? Do you still do acquisitions, or are you like totally on your own?
No. So I ended up breaking off. We worked together for 5 months or so. I think we closed about maybe 6 or 7 deals together. But I ended up breaking off and like doing my own thing, because that was always the understanding that I would have my own thing on the side. But with what he was giving me, I wasn't able to do that with my workload and my lack of time management. Like I would just do his stuff and just be done for the day. And I realized that in order for me to really build something sustainable and something that was my own, the reason why I got into it in the first place, I would have to have that conversation with him and be like, okay, we have to break this off. And it was also convenient because that was COVID.
Okay.
So COVID, his business slowed down. He's a pharmacist, so he was making money on the side anyway.
Regardless, right?
That's his full time, and I say it's on the side. But like, yeah, he was making money.
Right. Because they do a lot. I'm on their email list. I see them blasting out deals all the time. They text me asking me if I have buyers all the time. So that was all through COVID. You were doing a bunch of deals, and then you just started doing your own thing after that.
Yeah. After that, I started. His marketing kind of slowed down at the beginning of COVID. And now he does disposition, so he sells deals for other people. Okay. That's where those deals are coming from.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he doesn't really do acquisitions anymore, or at least not much of it. And
which seems to be like the prevailing business model for a lot of these guys. They just get like newer wholesalers to send them deals, and then they just dispo all of them. Yeah, so they can make just as much money, and they have no overhead either.
Yeah, they have no overhead, very few employees and stuff like that. But my thing though is that like I feel like most of the things that are harder in life, just in general, are worth it, and they're harder for a reason, and also by the virtue of that, less people are in it.
For sure.
Right. So I think I stuck to the acquisitions model and basically keeping everything in house, because once you have the contract, whoever has a contract has the power in the situation, not the buyer. Not the disposition wholesaler, not even the seller anymore. Right. Like this, you could literally have a contract with the seller and force a sale, depending on how solid your contract is. Right, because you can take it to the judge if they're backing out and stuff like that. I'm having to do that on a property right now,
and that would be like a suit for a breach of contract or for a specific performance.
Yeah. So like you can push a sale,
but you have to also make sure that you have a valid contract. Because some people try to, put list pendants on properties and don't have
a contract in the first place. Yeah. So So like, there's definitely an ethical way of going about it, but there's like assuming you're on the up and up and like you're doing it in a legitimate way. Like if you have a contract with somebody that's valid, can I get some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to ask.
Thank you. Yeah. Assuming you have a valid contract, and the seller's backing out on you, then like you have to explain to them that, hey, like I might have to have a conversation with my attorney that we have a signed agreement and this is how I feed my family. If I feel like you might be trying to go around me or maybe sign with somebody else, and I have to protect myself. Right. Because again, it's not just me. I have to feed my employees. I have to feed my family and stuff like that. And we have an agreement in place. Right. So a conversation has to be had on that front as well.
I think most of the time sellers are pretty reasonable on that as well. Especially when you've built that rapport with them, you've been talking to them months and months. It's like, I think if you really make sure they understand, I've had to learn that, like starting from the beginning. Like as soon as I have a signed purchase agreement, I'm like, hey, this is how it works. These are the expectations. I'm going to do every single thing that I promised that I was going to do to you. And then in return, you got to do everything you said that you were going to do as a promise to me. So, and usually it's never an issue, but of course you're always going to have things that arise that you can't expect.
Exactly.
Do you want to get into the situation you're dealing with like right now, or?
That one is a JV. So this girl, approached me from, an interview I had with Brent Daniels.
Okay. And I saw that, by the way. You did a great job on that. Yeah.
I appreciate
it was good to listen in. Yeah.
Appreciate it. But she approached me from that video and she had this deal in Temple Hills. She got it for like 165 and it could probably sell like for like 210. And I even saw some sales like on the block that sold cash for like 280. I'm trying to like hunt that buyer down to see if they'd be interested, but good deal. And the seller's like an old guy and he is wanting to sell quickly. It's tragic, man. Some of the stories you hear in this business is crazy.
For sure.
Crazy. Like his whole family has basically passed away
from COVID.
And like
just in general.
No, just life.
Okay.
It's crazy, bro. But in the span of like 2 years. His wife, his like siblings, like I think his parents too, and he's in and out of the hospital. So he's like, I don't know if he's like creeped out by Maryland and wants to just move to a completely different area or whatever. She talked to him for the most part and heard his backstory, but that's basically what I got from the situation. And now he's ghosting completely.
Okay.
And we can't help but think that maybe he found somebody else and is like waiting for who knows what, maybe for our contract to expire, whatever the case is. So I'm having to file maybe a list pendants or a memorandum on the property to just make sure if he sells it, then they have to talk to us and find us and stuff like that. So,
right. And sometimes just a safety measure. It's fair,
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's basically that deal. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you're grinding for 10 months. You get your deal, and you hit another one. You start working with him. What happens after you break off from him? You just start doing your own thing. What does business look like from there?
I hit a dry spurt from I was supposed to do 5 deals that month of March, and they all fell through.
Okay. Just buyers backing out, sellers backing out, or why'd they fall through?
Yeah, it was it was a blend of everything. One of them was a weird situation where another mortgage popped up, and geez. It pushed basically all the equity that we thought was in the deal disappeared.
Gotcha.
It was a lead that I got from a probate attorney, and they said that, hey, give us an offer and it's yours. So I figured that it was paid off, but I gave him an offer of 80 grand, sold it for 86, and then found out that the loan balance was 114 or something like that.
Was it an unreleased deed, or was it just an actual existing mortgage that they just hadn't paid?
No, existing mortgage.
Okay. That's always rough.
It was still, full. It was a second mortgage. So, and then it was a probate attorney, so this person's passed away.
All right.
So coordinating that whole thing, and then the probate attorney is not in real estate. It's not their main business. They just want to close, they just want to close out estates, right? And it's just one of many files. So it started taking too long. That deal actually has still not closed. I started in March 2020, and it still hasn't closed. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
I took some time off from the deal and worked on other stuff, but it's something I'm working on more recently. And so random stuff like that had popped up. It was supposed to be a quick 2-week deal. And now it's turning into 2 years. For
sure. This definitely happens sometimes. You think something's going to close. DC, the biggest thing is TOPA. Sometimes especially because of COVID, there was a stay on everything, a stay on evictions. And then there was a state of emergency. So the TOPA deadline was extended. So tenants didn't have to they didn't have to acknowledge TOPA paperwork until after that. So I had deals that I had under contract for a year, year and a half. Just couldn't do anything because the tenant was well, I have a deal I'm supposed to close in January. That's that I had under contract since March of 2020.
Dang.
Yeah, but it's finally going to get closed. So
dang, big spread.
That means a rental. So I'm just buying it as a rental. And I have to inherit the tenant who refused to sign this paperwork for a year and a half. No, I'm going to keep him there. He's a Section 8 tenant. So
okay.
We don't.
Payments are coming.
Exactly. Yeah. It's friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's friendly.
Dope. Do you want to explain what TOPA is?
Sure. For people who don't know, so TOPA. Well, I'm not an attorney, so and I don't want to sit here and say anything I'm an expert.
Say that.
If you Google TOPA, say everything.
I mean, you could say it. Just say it. It's not legal.
It's the Tenant Opportunity to Purchase Act. I think that's the acronym, yeah. So in DC, if you're buying a property that is tenant occupied, you have to essentially give the tenants notice. If it's a single family, they only have the right to purchase it if they're above 65 or they're disabled. If it's a multifamily, they always have TOPA rights. And there are some differentiations between 2 to 4 units and 4 units and above. So, but it's a mechanism to keep essentially help tenants from not being displaced and to protect them, but it really kind of generally turns into something else, right?
Yeah.
It really becomes a thing where you're paying tenants and you're making them promises and you're trying to figure out how to make it work. As much as I don't like dealing with it, I think it is actually a good thing because you have a square that is not really a square, but let's just say DC, it's hot real estate, right? Yeah. So if there was no mechanism to protect them, they would just be getting displaced so constantly that it would be
quickly. Yeah.
It would change DC very quick, but it just wouldn't be fair to the people who have been here. So I don't mind it, but it's just always just one more thing to, a check mark.
A significant thing.
For sure.
Significant thing. It's just I like to look at it as interest, right? Same way we get interest in the property when we sign a contract with them. These tenants have interest in your property just by the virtue of them being tenants.
Yeah.
And you probably know, you could sell those TOPA rights to somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right. And be done with the property and basically now another tenant or some random person has the right to hold over the seller of that property as well, before they actually sign off on the whatever paperwork you have to do to let go of it. I've never dealt with it personally. And I don't really do. I think I've done like 3 deals in DC.
Okay. So you don't have to deal with that. So
yeah, bro.
Consider it lucky.
Yeah, bro.
It's just like another bear, because also people can like steal your deal too.
Yeah,
because
in the middle.
They post the TOPA filings. So like if I send out a TOPA notice to tenants at 123 Main Street, and you go, let's say you go to the building, you see my posting, you're like, oh, Gavin's getting it for a great price. You can get those tenants to assign you their TOPA rights, and then you have the ability to purchase at my purchase price from the seller, because you have the TOPA rights to that property, right? So there are people who make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year just on getting tenants to form like associations and then getting them to sell their rights. Like it's a business, and just like every other business, you just deal with it and you go from there. My
dad had a property on Georgia Avenue.
Okay.
And I think it was in Northwest side. But yeah, he had I think 4 different tenants in there.
Is it 4 unit?
No, it was a single unit at the time. Okay. And now it's been split up into like a 6 condo conversion.
Okay.
6 unit condo conversion. So, but before, when it was still 1 unit, actually looking back, it might have been 2 units because it was split up. We have to go, but he had to pay like $70,000 total, in TOPA, just to get rid of him.
Crazy.
$70,000. That's a salary.
Yeah.
Just gone. Just like, it's like you might as well just like put it in like like one of those what do they call them? Those plastic keg, like I can't remember what barrel, like basically a barrel, and just light it like on flame. Just $70,000, just like
it's gone.
That's it.
Yeah, that's the price crazy. You pay. But then you look at it and it's like the multiply, like all the appreciation. It's like it's just the price you pay. It's the price you pay. Price of doing business.
True. True. That's fair.
I had a question for you in regards to the probate attorney. So people always want to know like how to get deals from probate attorney. How did you manage to
cold call
that? Cold call. You cold called the attorney.
Yeah. Okay. So I cold called them about a deal because at one point it was super manual. That everything I was doing was really, really, really manual, and I didn't understand records like I do now. I guess. Yeah, I guess I can say that. So. I would go through lists. There was a point in time I was so broke, bro. Oh my God. Like I would literally, like searchpeoplefree.com. Like, and they have phone numbers there. Bro, I would pull a list from PropStream. Okay. I would go through, clean that list. So all the LLCs, I would like go to the business search website on Maryland. I would manually type in all the registered agents and correct their names. Oh yeah, from switching off from the LLCs, bro. Manually.
I think I still have PTSD from when I first had to do that and put it on the Excel spreadsheet.
And you're talking about thousands of records, bro.
Dude, it's crazy. It's like, and people don't realize you're there at like 10 p.m. on a Saturday. Like, no, I can't come out. Because I have an Excel spreadsheet that I've been working on since 9 a.m.
to get ready for Monday.
Because I have to cold call for 40 hours next week.
It's crazy, bro. Like, people don't know.
They don't get it.
They don't know. And, like, they see you making all this money, and it's like, bro, like, I pay my dues.
Really?
And on top of that, so I'll go through the first time, switch out the LLCs with the registered agent, and then I would, and then if it's like a probate list, I would go to, like, the Register of Wills, that website, and then figure out who the personal representative is, and switch out the names. And then I would go through searchpeoplefree.com and literally type in the name, type in the address. They have a list of phone numbers, of likely phone numbers. I would copy and paste each phone number into like the fields for thousands of records, bro. This would take hours. Yeah. And like searchpeoplefree.com, I mean, it could work, but like the phone numbers aren't always the most accurate. But it was all I had. And like I don't have a job or anything. Like I have to figure this out. And I think that might have been what I did for the list, the RVM list that I got my first deal on. At that point, like I was broke, bro. So I was doing everything like super manual, copy and paste all the phone numbers, into each Excel file, and then like compiled it, then shot it into Call Loop, and then sent it out. Cause I still had like some credit left over in Call. Yeah.
And everything was. Were you ever doing cold calling? Were you ever also calling those people? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah.
you were
I was
using
cold-calling
Mojo.
myself.
What were you using for cold calling?
Mojo at that time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Now I use Call Tools.
Okay. Do you prefer Call Tools to Mojo?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
100%. 100%.
Okay. Interesting. I feel like Call Tools, the way that it like filters out, and like the way, like if you actually connect with somebody and then you try to like take them out, like I feel like it's too much, like it's too much work. Does that make sense? Like it's too much work to just always be filtering and recycling leads. Have you experienced that? Like
no,
that
so my approach to Call Tools is a little bit different, because I use a third party company that partners with Call Tools. Like the two owners know each other.
Interesting.
So it's called REI Sift.
REI Sift. Okay.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use it?
I used it a little bit, but then I stopped using it.
Bro, it's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It's so necessary. Because like basically what you're saying can all be managed in a more user friendly platform, and then you can also stack data and keep track of like whether you contacted them or not. So when you send it back over, I don't upload lists directly to Call Tools. Everything gets pushed over from REI Sift.
Got you.
And all that management happens in REI Sift first. And I'm having a VA do all this, so I don't even touch it anymore. But like they go through, they organize everything, they shoot it over to the cold callers, and they it's an automatic process.
Gotcha.
Right, so like they don't have to worry about trying to recycle data in the internal system, because I do agree it's pretty bad the way the internal system of Call Tools is set up. But REI Sift makes it so much easier.
Gotcha.
It's really just about creating like Loom videos of how to exactly do it, and then have a VA. Like I'm bringing on one more VA to just do data management. So like they're the ones that would pull that stuff,
organize everything,
pull the list, add them into REI Sift, organize it, skip trace certain portions of it that are going to be created into campaigns, and then push it over to the cold callers.
Gotcha. Where are you finding your VAs from?
Upwork.
Okay.
Upwork.com. I found one there, and then everything else has been referrals from her.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's always the best way to go, because they always have a bunch of people they know looking for work, and they're usually pretty good.
Yeah. Solid, good, bro. Yeah. Solid.
Craigslist is also a good place to find
for
good
VAs.
Yeah. I found best cold callers I've ever had always have been from Craigslist.
What?
Yeah.
I thought like Craigslist has to be local.
No, you just type in like Craigslist in like the Philippines or wherever you're trying to do Craigslist.
Oh, yeah. So they have a Filipino presence.
Yeah. You just put it on like the Philippines Craigslist, and you get like
I didn't even know that.
A bunch of applications.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Yeah. And like so affordable, man.
Yeah.
So affordable.
So affordable. How many VAs are you working with right now?
I have 4 right now.
Mostly cold calling or mostly with the data?
So I have 3 right now that are cold calling. I have 1 right now that is doing lead management. So she goes in my leads, and if they haven't been talked to, she has a first conversation with them. The cold callers are asking them about their condition and the price and like their timeline and stuff like that. The lead manager is going in and basically figuring out their why, and like really dialing into their why, like why are you selling? And then she's then figuring out whether it needs to be pushed out. Like this is a long-term follow-up, and we follow up with them like at some point, like in a couple months, or if this is somebody that needs to be talked to like right now, or like if this is like a trash lead to begin with, like maybe they slip through the cracks, and like this is somebody that doesn't really need to sell or whatever. So I trained her, and still training her to really be able to ask those questions that can really filter through leads, and then figure out whether, okay, this isn't something that we need to work on anytime soon, that there are other people we need to talk to. So she's basically a lead manager. She manages in that way.
And then you spend all your time just talking to like the best leads.
Acquisitions, exactly. Just doing acquisitions with the best leads. At least that's in the ideal world. It doesn't really work out like that. But that's what that's what I have in mind. That's what I'm shooting towards, like every day, just trying to get it closer and closer.
Refine.
And then the next person that I just interviewed today is just going to be lead management. So the one that's doing data management. The one that's doing lead management is also kind of doing data management, and it's taking away from her time to focus on those leads. So I want to hire somebody separate that can just do data management.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. So you got a couple of things going there. You got a lot of things going.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts. and I'm trying to. I tell people that like at first, like wholesaling was about the money, like how much money you can make, but to some extent, you realize that, or at least I've realized, and I've come to appreciate like the type of growth you have to. I appreciate it.
Gotcha. I didn't want to interrupt the thought.
No, you're good.
So you're saying you've come to appreciate the growth?
Yeah. The it's not even about the money anymore. It's the type of person you have to be to make the money.
Right.
Right. Like, so like if you're just like winging everything and like waking up whenever and like not being consistent and stuff like that, you'll get deals. You'll definitely get deals, but like you won't get them consistently.
Right.
And like you'll never really feel comfortable with the business, and really reach a stable place where like it's like predictable and like you have those KPIs in place, but like you need to grow as a person to create those habits and fix like what's on the inside to then have that translate into your business and like the new heights that your business is able to achieve. Like you have to be that leader first. You have to be successful first as a person, like individually, before that will shine through in your business.
For sure.
And I'm still working on that like every day. So my sleep schedule is terrible.
Right. No, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. And sometimes you don't realize like you can make a lot of money, but if you're not mature, like managing that money, and if you haven't like reached almost like that place of like internal growth, it's not all going to be sustainable. You know? And it's not going to be consistent. It can be very stressful. You know? But I think the beautiful thing is like when I think, 10 years, 20 years from now, like all of the things I've had to do to become the person that I wanted to be and build out all the things I needed to build out. I'm so happy I did it this way versus just like imagine all of the lessons you wouldn't have gotten about life, money, human behavior if you were just sitting at a job or you were just an engineer. All the things you'd have missed out on, even though you struggled, all the things you would have missed out on by not going through that struggle. So it's like a balance. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy. And this guy Cody Barton. Have you heard of him?
I think I have,
Cody Barton, he's Pace Morby's partner. And a common analogy that he uses a lot is he calls it a financial thermostat. So like, just like a thermostat in your house, if it's set to 70 degrees, let's say you open all the windows, right? All the windows, all the doors. You let this cold, nasty temperature in the house, right? The whole... the temperature of the house obviously drops, right? But then you close all the windows, you close everything up, and the function of the thermostat and at that level is that it will raise the property, your house back up to that thermostat. Same thing if it's hot outside, it'll take it back down to that 70 eventually, right? So he basically says that we all have a financial thermostat, which is like, I don't know, we have the ability to maintain $10,000 in our bank account. Right, or maybe that'd be $2,000 or whatever the case is, right? You can open up all the doors, right, and make like a huge 6-figure check, right? But if you don't have your financial thermostat set to a certain amount, if it hasn't changed, right, even though when you close all the doors, when the money stops coming in, you will still return right back down to that $2,000 or that $10,000 or whatever that money is, irrespective of how much money is coming in. So the whole goal, once you make enough money, you realize this. And the whole goal is not necessarily to make as much money as you can, but to start working on that financial thermostat. Of
course.
And start raising that over time. And that's not something that will ever change with however much money you end up making, however much properties you end up owning, right? Like that's why people make all this money but still go into bankruptcy. Or like lottery winners, like you realize after 5 years they go broke again, right? Even though they won millions of dollars, because their financial thermostat never changed, right? And like it's great to say you make all this money and stuff like that, but like
how much do you keep?
How much do you keep? That's all that really matters.
That's
at the end of the day.
Just in that. And I have a buddy of mine who he actually just dropped a book. Actually, I gotta get him on here. But he does like kind of like financial management for a lot of real estate companies. Yeah. And he'll talk about a lot of these companies are 7-figure, but like the owner is taking home like $100,000, $150,000, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter what the top line is, it matters what the bottom line is. Yeah. a really good book for that. And I think where Cody might have gotten that is, I think it's called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
I think he actually, yeah.
And he has a lot of exercises in there where, you know, you got to do a bunch of weird stuff, but it's just to reprogram your mind to always be raising that ceiling and kind of thinking about increasing that threshold that you have, because we all have it. Grant Cardone also has a book. I forgot what it's called. Maybe it's called like the Millionaire Booklet. Okay. And in one, I think it's like number 6. His concept is like stay broke, right? Like he's almost like acknowledging that he knows what his financial thermostat is maybe not as high as he wants it to be. So what he does is anytime he gets money, he stacks it as much as he can, then he invests it into real estate. Yeah. So now he's back to whatever that lower amount is, and then he's going to bring himself back up. He does it again. Yeah. So instead of you bringing yourself down to that while you're working on that baseline, instead of you bringing yourself down to it by like bad habits or misspending, you just put the money away. Yeah. And then you got to work with what you got and then restack it and keep putting it away, keep investing it in, you know, tangible assets like rentals. And
that is so interesting. Like he knows like it's higher. So he actually like spends it and goes way below that because he knows that eventually he's going to get that money back. Right. And then he just reinvests it. Yeah. That's like next level. Next level.
Yeah, I think. Are you big on Grant Cardone?
Yeah, I'm not big, but like he definitely is one of the people I follow, and like, you know, like I feel like we all have like our practices to stay motivated, and like people that we listen to and stuff like that that are where we want to be. I'm not really too big on the multifamily space, but still the lessons that he teaches on a very regular basis on his Instagram and stuff like that, they're things that I like to keep in my mind like on a regular basis, even though I know them. Already, it's just nice to hear them on a regular basis.
For sure. Because it's like auto-suggestion. You got to constantly be re-reminded. Because there's so much stimuli in the environment that's like telling you this or telling you that. Like, be afraid, be like just whatever it is. So you got to constantly be like telling yourself what you want yourself to know, what you want yourself to think.
And bro, I'm not sure if you went through this. Where'd you go to college?
I went to Mary Washington, University of Mary Washington.
Oh, wait. That's here.
It's in Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, in college, I mean, like, there were obviously cliques and stuff like that, and like, you always have your friends and stuff. But there was like, for me at least, there was always like a group of people that was like, I would appreciate like, getting to, if I got a chance to like know them or like be cool with them or like go out to this like party that I saw on Instagram or whatever, and you like start to like value, these potential relationships, right? And it's like, oh, they're doing stuff that I wish I could be doing, right? And having Grant Cardone on your Instagram feed, and then also having these people and seeing what they're doing, it's like I'm torn to what my values used to be, and I'm torn between what my values used to be and now what my values are, and it's like a constant struggle, especially being not fresh out of college. I'm still 3 years, but like it's definitely a lot more fresh than I could be. And the further and further it goes out, it starts to wane a little bit. But it's just very interesting navigating between those two value, I don't know, standards. And I still go through it on a day-to-day basis. It's like I see people and what people are doing. I'm like, ultimately, like they're not even living like a life that like I really value. I know behind the scenes, if you're not in some type of entrepreneurship space, if you're like still going to a 9-to-5, no disrespect at all to people that work 9-to-5s, right? Because like my brothers work 9-to-5s, and like my family, my friends, they all work like 9-to-5s, but ultimately you're being in a position where again, somebody else is telling you what the value of your time is, right? And I think just based off of that alone, you're capped at how much you can make, right? Unless you have some type of side hustle or whatever. Because I can't remember where I heard it from, but somebody had said that they're never going to pay you enough to be their neighbor, right? Like you're never going to get to that point, right? So there's always going to be a cap on how much you make just by the virtue of you working for somebody else.
For sure.
And the whole basis of entrepreneurship and starting up a business is arbitrage. Right, you're figuring out there's a set of people that are valued at a certain amount, but because of the way the job market works, we can pay them for less than that. And the value that they're now providing becomes like, think of like the people that are like actually doing the day-to-day of any business, like a consulting business or whatever the case is. Like the people that are going from business to business and actually talking to people are the people that are providing like some of the most value in the company.
They're doing the work.
They're actually doing the work, right? But again, as a business owner, you realize that you could pay them way less than what the value is, and that might actually end up being $150,000, right? But the point is that you're not worth that, or else they wouldn't. You're not worth. You're not worth that unless, and if you were, you wouldn't be making $150,000. It's that arbitrage between how much you're worth and how much they can actually pay you. That is business profit,
for sure.
Right? That's what the profit actually is.
And the other like way to look at it too is like you're getting paid for like your thoughts as well. Like the business owner thought this entire thing up. He put all the pieces together, and thereby he's getting the upside of whatever is going on, right? And everyone is going to get paid by like the value that they're adding in that particular setting or whatever the particular business is. Yeah. The other side is like freedom too. Like to just go back a little bit on what you were saying is like when you were trying to compare like values and you're looking at Grant Cardone, you're looking at your friends. It's like sometimes to really think long term is like such a powerful thing. Yeah. And sometimes we don't realize how like old we are, but also how young we are and how kind of not sacrifice. 'Cause I don't like the word sacrifice. I don't know if you really need to sacrifice, because when you start to look at it, you're like, oh, well, me working all these hours isn't really a sacrifice because I'm getting everything that I want. But, you could put your head down for 8 years. You're still going to be 31, 32, and you can have whatever you want, right? Yeah. You can have like genuine freedom of time. Like we can sit here on a Friday and do this. Like it's, but the other side, I also think it's a balance. 'Cause I don't think everyone is like equipped to be in business. I think probably, I don't know, something like, I think 90% of businesses fail. I don't know if that's like a fake statistic or like a fake number that they throw out there, but half the business people aren't even equipped to be in business. So it's like, it's definitely not easy, right? True. It's not easy, but if you do it right, you can actually be free, get what you want. Yeah. So it's a balance.
And I don't necessarily think success in business is what dictates whether you're supposed to be or not. I think it's like I think it's almost like how do I say it? Like a masochistic way of being, just like, and not anything sexual or anything, but just like enjoying like the thrill of the ups and downs, and like, or like seeing like some people need stability, right? And they want to know, even though it's less, it's kind of like the distressed owner thing. Even though they're making less, they sometimes when selling a house, again, it's hard for people to wrap their minds around, but there's more to selling a house than just the price. Right. There are other things that come along with selling a house than just the price. And sometimes you'd be willing to compromise on the price because there are other things that you value outside of just the money.
For sure.
Right. And sometimes in a person that's getting hourly wage, they're not just valuing the money, but they're valuing the stability of it. And knowing that every 2 weeks I'm going to get this money, right? Even though it's less than they could potentially be making otherwise. Sometimes some people need that. Right. I knew from jump, I don't need that. Like I prefer to not make any money for 5 years and then start making money, like start making like 6 figures a month. That makes more sense to me than me making 80 grand a year, right? But then being stuck in that for 40 years. Right. Like it clicked for me from the get-go. So that's why I was like, I'm not even gonna like do engineering at all. Like it's just in terms of, you can invest money, right, to get a return, right? You put money in, how much money are you getting out? Like that yield is a thing with finance, but you can also spend time and get an investment back, right? And for me, the yield on the time I spent at my job working 9 to 5 and what I'm getting back from that it pales in comparison to the yield that I would get from not working a job, being broke for 10 months, but then after that, like having deals rolling. Right. Like literally just today, I'm not sure if they closed, but like I'm closing on 2 deals, right? And I closed on one earlier today, or earlier this week. Everything together, that was like a salary, like a salary for a year. It was like, I think it came out to be I think it's like 55 grand.
Okay.
That
Solid
like
month.
from this,
Yeah.
from, and that wasn't even the month. Like I closed on some like last week. So it's like, but it took me 10 months of not making any money to reach the point where I have like the savviness to know how to put pieces together and get these deals rolling. So it's like, it just didn't make any sense to me to then work at a job and then kill 8 hours of my day just to make like, not just 80 grand is a good amount of money, right? But that would have been probably around my starting salary as an engineer. And there's very little growth potential.
Right.
So it just didn't really add up to me.
Didn't resonate with you. And the other side too is like growth is not linear, you know? A lot of times it's that big dip up because you learn so much in this space that then you can get to the point where you're doing, 100, 200 grand a month. Yeah. And it's like you might have been struggling for X amount of time before that, but then it starts to become easy. You're relaxed. You can focus on other things, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like you were talking about getting into these other spaces because you're bringing that money in.
Exactly.
What does everything look like now? You said you're close on 4 deals this month?
Four. Yeah. It's not usually like that. Maybe it's like usually like 2, 3. And then I had like a dry period earlier this year. I was hiring. Okay. And that lead management position, I'm a mastermind student for Pace Morby.
Okay, nice.
So I'm like in like creative financing and all that stuff.
Okay. Have you, not to cut you off, but have you had good luck with creative financing in this area, like in DMV? Okay. In the DMV.
Yeah, 100%. I can walk you through a deal.
Yeah, I'd love to hear
it. Yeah. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, so I went to go see him in March, I think, this year. And this whole role of a lead manager position opened up to me. I had no idea what a lead manager was. I thought it was just marketing acquisitions. But the issue that I had with when I worked for him when I was an acquisitions manager is that he would just generate all these leads, and no offense, I love you, bro. But like we
can cut his name from the
podcast. For real? Okay.
Yeah, we can edit it right out. So
I don't think he would care because like he's doing business and he's like a great wholesaler. But he would send all these leads to me and they weren't filtered at all. So I'd be talking to people that did want to sell. I'd be talking to people that just answered yes because they were just entertaining the call, right? And this is time I'm taking away from my business. Right, answering all these calls and like going through all these things, and like I remember I was frustrated at the time. I was like, "Dang, this is." I came on and I agreed to do this because like I thought I'd be getting fired leads and at least leads that would allow me to close deals, but there's no closing any of these. Like these people aren't closable, right? Irrespective of how good I am. So, and that's what was filling up all my time. So I went to the Pace Morby thing earlier this year, and I learned about this lead manager position where you can get somebody to do that, to filter through and essentially manage the leads in a way that when the acquisitions person comes on, they're being paid more, right? They're coming on to close for leads that are ready to be closed. Like now it's just like a matter of words that you need to put together and a presentation that you need to put to match up what we can do with what the seller needs. But it's not a case of the seller doesn't really need anything, like but price. Like they don't talk to those people anymore, and being able to filter that out. So, but I didn't know what that was. I couldn't communicate that position as well as I can now because I had no idea what it was. They just kind of vaguely explained it, but I didn't know what it was. So I trained somebody for the position. And she ended up not being the best fit. And then I already had a cold caller at that point that had been working with me for like 6 months, I think, at that point. And so I ended up having to I was training her for a position I had no idea about. So there was really no direction necessarily. So she got frustrated. I didn't really get frustrated at her. I was just frustrated at myself that like, dang, I really should be a better leader than this. So she stepped down. She became a cold caller, and I I promoted the cold caller that had been with me for 6 months to being a lead manager. And at that point, I kind of knew a little bit more, and I was training her. Through that process, basically, it was very confusing, and like I wasn't like following up on leads like the way I was supposed to, because I was training and stuff. So I had like a dry spurt. But as of like maybe 3-4 months ago, I've been like maybe 2 or 3 deals a month.
Consistent.
And then this one is like 4.
Okay.